Creepy creeps with eerie eyes.
The Haunted Mansion story begins in the late 1950s. Walt Disney asked artist and Imagineer Harper Goff to make some sketches and designs for a walk-through haunted ghost house.
In the late 40s and around 1950, Walt used to come up here to the Bay Area. There's a Fairyland in Oakland. It was a little theme park, and I think Walt was planning kind of to do something similar to that on his, near his studios down south. And so he had his art director, Harper Goff, do some work designing a theme park similar to Fairyland.
Yale and I built a full-scale room in one of the sound stages to show Walt what these illusions would look like full scale. And he just loved them. And we used to bring in guests, like the tour guides from Disneyland would come up, and we would run all of our illusions for them. And we actually had some magicians come in. We fooled the magicians.
Well, after the Monsanto Omnimover ride turned out to be really a good way to go through different show scenes. With an Omnimover, we could make scenes really, really interesting. The car could go down a steep hill, and the body could turn backwards, and you don't know what's happening because it feels odd to ride backwards and then find birds with glowing eyes and shaking dogs and shaking grave diggers. So the idea of a people mover system that will allow staging a very interesting show.
The one in Disneyland had what we call OBA, which is onboard audio. The people mover that is in Magic Kingdom in Florida has simply overhead speakers built into the covered awning. Therefore, they got around the hassles of the onboard audio. The way the onboard audio was done in those days, or dark ride audio, was little tape repeaters, basically a radio station type of technology where you have a quarter-inch tape, and they broke up the track into individual sound zones, and the repeaters, there were banks and banks of them that would follow the progress of the cars.
He was always so enthusiastic about the next project, and he was always such an inspiration in that respect, that we always have all this planned. And tomorrow, when we just chew the fat, when he would be in just blue sky talking, well, he had 1,000 ideas. He said, we'll do another mountain. He said, we'll have a dragon in it. And he said, in fact, we can have a baby dragon. He was just spur of the moment, we can even do this, and then we can do some other things. He was just always vibrant.
When it came to the script, then it was mine.
The ghost host idea, which had been active since the attraction's walkthrough days, was first conceived as a cat and then a raven.
You're looking at a raven, and if you look very closely throughout the ride, the raven appears in many different sequences in the graveyard and going down through the trees, and in this sequence here. And I have found very early soundtracks that have the raven as narrator. Well, it's really obnoxious.
Caw! Caw! He chose the coward's way! Caw!
Veteran voiceover actor Paul Frees, who did work on many Disneyland attractions, including Adventure Through Inner Space, was chosen to be the ghost host.
Welcome. Welcome. Well, come in. Kindly step all the way in, please.
Paul was always my man. I loved to work with Paul. He was such a genius, and my association with him. Paul would come in for a recording session, and you spent the first half hour of the recording session listening to Paul tell how great he is.
How much time more do I have?
Oh, you got another 5 seconds, 8
Oh,
seconds.
Oh, that's like giving whiskey to an Indian. God bless you. I don't even want the money today. Take two. Strike that last part. I'm waiting for slates.
All right, 6905, take two.
And then we'd finally say, okay, let's get to work, Paul. And I'd give him the script, and he would just run with it.
Now you've noticed that this room contains 8 towering walls, no windows, and no doors.
Well, the Haunted Mansion definitely has a wide, varied fan base amongst Disney fans. There are the Disney fans that just love everything Disney, and it's a good example of Imagineering at its finest. There are the haunted house fans that just really love to see what can you do to make a haunted house if you don't have, you know, if you have unlimited resources, basically. There's kind of a goth community that's taken up the Haunted Mansion as their own.
There's even a National Haunted Mansion fan-based event called Bats Day, which has taken place each summer at the park since 1999. Founder and organizer Noah Korda is responsible for the activities that take place each year.
Basically, Bats Day, how it started, I was running sort of a goth industrial club. And then I have friends in Long Beach that run Release the Bats. And one day, my friends from Release the Bats are just kind of like, you know, hey, we're gonna go to Disneyland.
There's a religious experience that goes on when you talk about Disneyland, and there's stuff where people they'll say stuff back and forth, but there's an underlying current. You'll see it when X Atencio comes up and he talks and he says something, or you'll see it when Bob will talk about Walt or these kind of things, and you really, really get this collective love that these people have.
It just turned out great. The marvelous experience, Jesus. The best of my life was working with him.
I never intended to stay working for Disney, and I stayed 31 years because I couldn't stand to quit. You know, it was just one of those things. Every project was so interesting. It was a carrot on the stick. I think, well, now I'm ending, now I'll quit. No, then something was coming up that would be so interesting. I think, well, I'll stay for that. And so I stayed all those years because it was just a marvelous career, the whole thing.
So then they said, now we're going to film you guys, and we're going to make you up, your face and everything, maybe from here up, as a bust, plaster bust. And it's not going to be pleasant, but that's what we want. And they put our head in a vise, our neck in a vise, so we couldn't move. We could animate all we wanted, but we couldn't move our head. After we made a couple of takes, they said, now would you want to see what you just did? We said, yeah. So he took us in a room, and there were our 4 busts. And I was standing looking at my profile, this in the plaster. And the minute that film came on,
As the moon climbs high over the dead oak tree, creepy creeps with eerie eyes.
I could see the inside of my mouth and my tongue and everything, you know, mugging to the playback. It was a weird experience.
Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.